like a phoenix, born from the ashes. I take care of my own. Torn down where assassin, you can't suffocate my spirit, 'cause I'm the king of my own throne, my own throne. King of my own throne, my own throne. You'll never see me fall, fall. You'll never see me fall. Watch me reign, and I'll slay them all. Slay them all, slay them all, slay them all. You'll never see me reign, and I'll slay them all. Slay them all, slay them all, slay them all. You'll never see the throne. King of my own throne, my own throne. King of my own throne. Born from the ashes, 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 born from the. You can't suffocate my spirit, 'cause I'm the king of my own throne, throne, oh, oh, oh. King of my own throne, my own throne. You'll never see me fall, fall. You'll never see me fall.
It's so weird.
Watch me reign, and I'll slay them all. Slay them all, slay them all, slay them all. You'll never see the rain, and I'll slay them all. Slay them all, slay them all, slay them all.
What is going on, you guys? That was from my mock meet on Sunday, which was a huge success. Before we get into the rest of the video, quickly disclose that I felt extremely nervous for this mock meet. I was not looking forward to it at all, but once I got there, got myself warmed up, I decided to change my mindset a little bit and just make the best of it and realize that nothing bad is gonna happen. I don't know why I get so scared when I lift heavy, but I feel so good afterwards. But I am actually really afraid most of the time, but it was a huge success, and it's crazy how much can change when you change your mindset. So let's get into it. Firstly, I'm gonna quickly run through what I did, numbers I hit, and everything like that, and then I'm gonna do a quick little tutorial on the 3 lists. It was requested by a couple of people that I would do this. I'm only gonna do a quick tutorial on them, as I already do have a squat tutorial and a deadlift tutorial out there, so I'll link those right up here if you guys do want to check them out for a little bit more in depth. But for the purpose of this video, I'm just going to talk about what I am doing and why I am doing it. So let's get into it. Firstly, we're starting off with some squats. 3 different rep ranges here. The first one I did one set of 2 of 80%, and I should note that for my squats I was able to work off of my 1 rep max of 195. So for one set of 2 I was able to push 155 pounds, and this is when the nerves really started kicking in, because that one set of 2 of 155 felt extremely heavy, and the next set was supposed to be 2 sets of 1 at 88%, which amounted to 170 pounds. I decided to work within my 1 rep max range of 185 and 195. So for the 2 sets of 1, the first set I was successful at 165 pounds, and I was completely blown away by this, that this felt way lighter than my 1 set of 2 at 155 pounds. So I'm like, all right, well, let's try 170. 170, let's do this. And I want to note that I haven't hit 170 pounds since before my prep back in December, and that's when I weighed 120 pounds. I am currently sitting at 111 pounds. So you can kind of understand why I felt a little bit nervous to hit 170, but we did it. The 170 felt so easy. I was like completely weirded out by the entire concept of that. Yeah, so this was definitely a PR for me at this particular body weight that I am sitting at. And the last rep range of 1 single was to be at 185 pounds, which is 95% of my 1 rep max. I was kind of working off of an RPE scale versus my percentages. So this was supposed to be an RPE 9. And I felt that 185 would be sufficient. And as you guys will see right here, it was successful. I hit 185, no problem. Weighing at 111 pounds. I'm like, bah, I'm still like floored by it. Like, I never thought that I would be able to do this ever. So that was an all-time PR for me. The squats were a success. By the end of my squats, moving on to bench, I was completely fired up and not as nervous. Actually, the nerves completely like diminished and I wasn't even scared. So firstly, for bench, 1 set of 2, which was 95 pounds. Super easy with these. These went up very quickly. So quickly moved on to 3 singles at 105 pounds. And these moved up very quickly as well. Felt pretty confident at this point. So took about maybe a 5-10 minute break in between that to work up to my max, which was an RPE 9.5. And I did feel like 115 pounds was sufficient. The last time I hit 115, I kind of had a breakdown because I failed the first time, but I still ended up hitting the weight. So having the confidence this time made the weight go up that much smoother. I hit 115 pounds for 1, no problem. Awesome, another confidence booster, which was really cool. Then we moved on to deadlifts. My favorite, my strongest, deadlifts. So for deadlifts, we did 1 single at 80%, which amounted to 180 pounds. Felt super easy. This went up like a gem. Then we worked up to 2 singles at 88%, which amounted to 200 pounds. These went up pretty quickly as well, actually. That's definitely a PR at this body weight. And then we had 1 single of an RPE of 8.5, which I felt was sufficient at 215 pounds. These are pretty good indications of what I will be lifting on the day of the meet. So yeah, less than 2 weeks away. I'm super excited. So the mock meet went really well. I do have another one next Sunday, which will be 1 week away from the actual meet. So I'm excited to see how that goes. So let's quickly talk about proper form and technique for the squat, bench, and deadlift. So for squats, I find that low bar squats work better for me, and that's only because I have such a small torso and long femurs. So low bar squats allow me the ability to lean further forward, so the bar path is a complete straight line, and that's just how I lift most efficiently for that. So whether you're doing a high bar squat or a low bar squat, you want to ensure that your hands are as close together as possible underneath the bar, so it creates a shelf so that the bar sits properly onto your back. When you are unracking for a squat, you want to give the bar time to settle. By doing this, you are saving yourself energy so that you can continue to lift most efficiently. So I unrack the bar, take a minute for the weight on my back to settle, and then I recommend either a 2 or 3 step back approach. So many people will take 5 to 10 steps back, and you're just basically wasting energy at this point. You want to eliminate the amount of energy when you're unracking as much as possible to maximize the amount that you are actually going to be lifting. So I take a 3 step back approach. I'll take 1 step back with my left foot, right foot, and then I will place the left foot into place to ensure that my feet are screwed into place. Your foot placement is definitely going to depend on your body type. I typically recommend maybe about a shoulder width distance apart with your feet pointed out ever so slightly. A good test for this is when you are just standing with your feet completely forward, just to squeeze your glutes, and you'll find that your feet will actually pivot into place naturally, and that's typically a good starting point for when you are squatting. So when you descend down, you want to make sure that you are bracing your core before you descend. So I always make sure that I take a deep breath into my tummy before I descend. This is called the Valsalva maneuver breathing method. So you take a deep breath in, and to lock that air in throughout the entire movement, you actually place your tongue to the roof of your mouth, and that will ensure that the air is locked in. And then when you descend, it's not about until you're like maybe halfway up that you let all that air out. So you want to ensure that you are holding it the entire time, and this will ensure that your core is stable throughout the entire movement, and this is going to ensure that your spine is completely neutral, that you're not going to have an anterior tilt, or you're not going to butt wink, anything like that. So by doing the Valsalva maneuver, you're going to ensure that you have spine neutrality throughout the entire lift. And as you'll see when I stand back up, because again, with how long my femurs are, I have to actually lean further forward in order to maintain a straight bar path. And I still get so many people telling me that I need to sit more upright, and I can't with how my body is built. There is not one way to do things. People who have a longer torso and shorter femurs have the ability to sit more upright during a squat, but as long as your back is straight and as long as the bar path is straight, it's okay. If you're leaning further forward like this, there is a significant amount of people who do actually squat like this. So that is why I am so far lean forward. If I do sit more upright, I'm not going to be able to hip depth, and I'm just not going to be able, I'm more likely going to fall backwards because of how my body is built. So that is why. Basically it for squats. Let's move on to bench. So when you're benching, I take a little bit of a wider grip because this allows me to ensure that my forearms are completely perpendicular to the ground. So that's typically where I start, is where you're gripping, and we start from the shoulders all the way down to the feet. So when I go back, I grab the bar and make sure that my hands are nice and even. And then to create the arch, unless you're in powerlifting, I wouldn't over dramatize the arch or anything like that, but if you are looking to get into it, then working up your flexibility is definitely important to start now. So after you grip the bar and you pull yourself into place, I typically will shrug my traps into place. And that's why you see me elevated so high, that's so I can make sure that I'm basically screwing my traps into place. So stabilizing my traps into place, and then I will place my feet down to create that arch. You wanna always make sure that your feet are basically screwed into place. You want to be able to create that torque, which is going to create spine neutrality. If you see people flopping their feet around like this, like they're not stable at all, and you're going to break spine neutrality, you're increasing your risk of injury, and you're not going to be able to maximize the amount that you could possibly be lifting. So make sure that your feet are like screwed into place. So when you're coming down to the sternum, like I mentioned, you want to make sure that your forearms are completely perpendicular to the ground. You don't have them collapsed in like this or anything like that, because you're just going to really hurt yourself. It can cause some issues in your shoulders and your elbows and stuff like that. And again, just not maximizing your lifts. So make sure that your grip is proper by ensuring your forearms are perpendicular to the ground. I think that's it for bench. So let's move on to deadlifts. Like I mentioned, I do have a complete tutorial of deadlifts, so I'm just going to talk about the conventional deadlift here because that is what I am currently pulling. If you do pull a sumo deadlift, I do recommend you check out the tutorial just to make sure that you are lifting correctly. But other than the foot placement and the grip, the rest of the cues for the deadlifts are basically the same. So when you're setting up, firstly, your foot position, it's typically about a shoulder width distance apart, but a good cue for this is to pretend that you are taking a vertical jump. So if you pretend to take a vertical jump with where your feet automatically place, that's typically a good indicator that that's your starting point for where your foot placement for a conventional deadlift is going to be. And when you come to the bar and you set up under the bar, you want to pretend that the barbell is actually cutting your foot in half. So basically, the barbell is touching your shins when you walk underneath it. If the barbell isn't as close to your shins as possible, it's not going to be up in a straight line, which is ultimately our goal. When you step underneath the bar and you go down to grab the weight, so many people will tell you to drop your hips and pretend you're squatting. Well, that's inaccurate because for one, the barbell isn't going to be in a complete straight line, and two, your hips are going to actually have to rise anyway for you to even be able to pull the weight. So actually, you want to make sure that your hips are started up a little bit higher. You want to pay attention more so to your scapula, and you want to make sure that your scapula is actually over top of the bar. So you'll see like my back is basically flat, and that's your starting point to ensure that I am able to lift in a full straight line. And you want to pretend that you are pushing the earth away from you. So many people will think that this is a pulling movement. It's actually more of a pushing movement. So pretend that your feet are against a leg press and you're pushing the floor away from you. So by doing that, make sure that you are squeezing your glutes in order to stand up versus pulling with your back. Once you push the floor away from you and you stand up and squeeze your glutes, come to a full lockout. You don't want to drive your hips super far forward like so many people will exaggerate. You just want to make sure that you're standing straight up and that your knees are locked out appropriately. This is the biggest controversy of all when it comes to deadlifts, is the descent. This is not an eccentric movement where you go slowly to put the weight down. If you slowly put 215 pounds down, for instance, I am gonna throw out and seriously hurt my lower back. So as soon as you come to the top, all you have to do is unlock your knees, drive your hips back, and let the weight go down as gravity would allow it. You don't wanna drop the weight, especially in a powerlifting meet, because you have to make sure that it's nice and controlled and it's not bouncing everywhere when it hits the ground. But you don't wanna come slowly down where it takes you 3 seconds to get to the bottom. So once you get to the top, unlock your knees, drive your hips back, and let gravity take it down. I think that's about it for deadlifts, you guys. I hope that all this helped. I hope that it made sense. If you guys have any questions about anything that I have discussed today, as always, just leave a comment down below and I promise I will get back to you with some answers. And yeah, thanks for watching, you guys. I hope you enjoyed this video. So that's gonna be it today. Less than 2 weeks out, you guys. Appreciate all your guys' support. You have no idea how awesome it is to hear other women saying, you're inspiring me to lift heavier. It's the best feeling in the world to be able to help people realize that lifting heavy weights is empowering for a woman, just because they're more scared of it than men. So it's really awesome to hear that I'm motivating women to lift heavier and not to be afraid. And like, I promise you don't look manly. Like, this is the most I've ever lifted in my life, and I actually weigh less than when I was lifting last year. You do not get manly from lifting weights, so especially heavy weights. Don't be afraid of it, ladies. It's the most empowering thing in the world to see yourself getting stronger in the gym. It's so badass. I'm not even kidding. So don't be afraid of those weights. Thanks for watching, you guys. Hit that like button, and I'll see you guys in the next video.